if you keep providing a good culture full of respect for your groomers, it's going to change the industry. I mean, we'll talk about that on another day, but just in my experience, because of the lack of tools, because of the lack of support, groomers can get a little defensive. They, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like they've always been fighting for things that they shouldn't be fighting for. So if you provide them that environment, you give them the respect, that's going to definitely pull through. Because I've been in environments where the groomers, you know, if they're not getting along, if they're not happy, things aren't happening as well as they should. But in a salon that's working like clockwork with like perfect teamwork, it is one of the best things, and especially it benefits the dogs. It's just amazing what that, you know, paradigm shift can happen. So happy that you guys are, you know, looking at it from this wonderful quality perspective. You know, that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm really, I mean, what's cool is I can, you know, I saw almost immediate change and just sort of, you know, I think a lot of it is, you know, feelings about themselves, even where they feel more proud. And I mean, you know, they came in today with like, you know, their uniform on, and you could just tell they were sort of, you know, really proud of working there, and, you know, telling their friends on the phone, you know, or, you know, submitting pictures and doing pictures and this and that. Just, it felt really good. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very happy for you and getting open and having a good team start off and everything. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. I'm excited.
So Roger, what do you think? It's about 4:11. Roger, can you hear me, Roger? Okay, maybe Roger's off for a bit. We'll wait for Roger to get back, and then we're going to jump in. I mean, people, I definitely want to get you guys this information, especially as shop owners. I mean, this is going to be good for groomers and for salon owners as well, because you're jumping into the industry. You've got to know the industry, right? Luckily, the industry that we're working with is adorable animals. I mean, that's the best part about it, right? I mean, if you're going to be working with anything in your life, adorable animals is not a bad way to go at all. And I'll tell you, I mean, even my hardest days as a groomer, because I'm still grooming, right? I'm going to be grooming till I can't groom anymore. It's just one of those things. I still am filled with joy. It's a joyful job. You make a big difference in the health and the lives of these animals. You make a big difference in touching the clients as well. You know, I talk to a lot of veterinarians, and they kind of, I don't want to say that they're jealous, because it's a different, and, you know, of course they're the end all be all of health wellness, but they get a little jealous that groomers do have this happy experience with our clients. So every time the dogs come to see us, they're wagging their tails. Some are afraid of grooming, but it's, you know, we get through it. I mean, we're patient. It's wonderful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful vocation. You know, just so proud and honored to be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited too to be joining the team, hopefully, if everything works out the way we have it planned and everything. So.
Oh, yes, I hope so too. That's wonderful. And it is, you know, I was once like you guys. I came in from tech. So I was an engineer in Silicon Valley. And then so my first foray into grooming, I'm actually kind of introducing myself as I'm talking to you. So completely didn't know anything about professional pet grooming, didn't know anything really about dog coats, really didn't know anything. I mean, just loving animals in my life. So I was exactly where you guys are, you know, today, but you guys have well-groomed pets who has your back, which is something that I didn't have. I had to kind of climb a lot of mountains, walk through a lot of fires, learn the hard way without really support, and then get to a place where I was able to manage and operate and build a salon in Westlake Village. So I'm in California. I groom Malibu, Calabasas area. And so my last large job before becoming a private groomer and starting to talk to people and being a wellness advocate was managing this salon at VCA, which is one of the largest veterinary companies in the world. So got to see it was me and a bather. That's what it started with. And then I want to say within 5 years, we had 13 people. We were working 7 days a week. basically doing about 50 to 70 dogs a day in luxury environments with barely any, the injury rate was.
Later on those services and how those integrate
Okay.
with our payroll system.
Oh, sorry, I hear people
that's
talking.
kind of like the biggest thing.
Hello, hello?
I
Sorry.
think I don't know who that was. It was
Yeah,
a voice.
sorry, I think someone took themselves off mute, but that's okay, no problem.
That was actually Josh in Vegas.
Oh.
Okay, Josh, hi Josh. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start this up if you guys have no objections.
Okay.
Okay,
And
it's
this-
4:15. Whoever jumps on,
my
they'll
son,
catch
Kevin.
on. You know, it's like I said, an interactive discussion. And I was just going kind of through a background on me. I'm a professional pet groomer. You know, my background is in running large luxury and high volume pet environments. And I work for one of the largest veterinary companies in the world while I managed this, my last salon for 10 years. So really have an insight into coming into the industry without knowing anything really about dogs, except that I loved animals. That's what I knew. And then growing that through the last 16 years. I've also taught at Nash Academy of Animal Arts. So I've been teaching and talking grooming since I started. You can't stop me from talking about grooming. So really wanted to say hello to everybody and to tell you how honored that I'm here talking about my favorite subject, which is dogs and the coat types on dogs. So thank you guys. Is anyone out there running? Well, I know that we have Dave running a salon, but he hasn't gotten the Christmas rush yet. Anyone else feeling that Christmas burn yet? Any salon owners out there? No. Okay, well, that's probably good. Next year, I'm going to ask the same question. And the answer is going to be, yeah, you guys are going to be really busy with December. So thank you. And if any groomers are joining, this is a big month for groomers. It's our crunch time. It's when every single client comes to see us is December. So really, really appreciate your time, especially in this month. So if we're going to jump in, if there's any questions, just some quick housekeeping things is that I'm going to be basically not be doing mute all at all. You guys obviously mute yourselves if you know your background noise, but this will be an interactive session. I'll be asking some questions. Guys, give your opinions. There's no right or wrong answers. We're all discovering, right? So we are going to learn together, and grooming is a constant learning process. So this is a great, great discussion to have, which is dog coats. It's not just, again, good for the groomers, but really good for salon owners to understand what that, how that works and what we're working with. Everyone good with that? We got thumbs up. All right. Patty gives a thumbs up. Okay. So rhetorical kind of question. I'm going to answer this in 3 ways, but why is it important to understand pet coats? Especially we're going to be focusing on dog coats today. So there are some critical reasons why this is really important for groomers to understand this, and also people who are running salons. So the first answer to that is that a dog's coat does affect grooming. So with coats, there's a certain way of cutting a coat, right? There's a certain lay of a coat, and there's also knowing what the right thing to do is per that coat type. We're going to go into the different coat type variables out there. Okay, but the right service is very important that we provide. So every single dog should get groomed. Let's just say that every single dog in the world should get professional pet grooming because there's also things that they need to maintain regardless of their coat, right? Which is their ear cleaning, their nail trimming, making sure that their privates are kept nice and clean, making sure that we're distributing oils on their coats, pulling out any dead coat. So every single dog needs to get professionally groomed and can benefit from that, right? But what that service exactly is going to be determined by a dog's coat. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the coolest part about knowledge, especially when it comes to grooming, is that increases credibility. And, you know, we kind of were talking off camera in the beginning about groomers not getting quite the respect that they should have in the industry. And a lot of that is the credibility factor. So we do need to study more. We need to keep studying, right? And then that is going to allow our clients to trust us more. And what that happens when our clients trust us more, guess who benefits? Well, we all benefit because if our clients are trusting us more, they're going to listen to what we're saying because we have credibility with them, right? And then the right service is going to be given to those pets. And that also benefits the groomers because if you have pets coming in for the right services, the groomer is going to get through their day a lot better. Okay, so just kind of a note on that is probably the biggest time suck in grooming in general is a matted coat. So if a coat comes in matted, that's going to add a lot of time to a groomer. It's also going to cause the groomer some frustration, right? Because it's a lot of work and we're also kind of yanking on the dog. It's not pleasant. And then it's going to cause the dog to have unpleasantness. That's all because somewhere in the communication chain, right, we didn't get the right communication to that client to say, hey, we're not doing the right thing, okay? And you're not coming in frequently enough, or we're just not communicating that to clients. So knowledge increases credibility, and credibility serves a lot of purposes, including the pets. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, now here is the kind of scariest one, that the lack of knowledge can cause problems. So giving a haircut to a dog that shouldn't be getting a haircut can actually damage the coat irreparably, right? You can't go back in time for a lot of these things. Now, some coats can take certain treatment a little better than other coats, and we're going to get into that. That's kind of like the root of the discussion. But we have to be careful that we're not just taking back a dog being like, Bob, shave down this husky, right? And then your groomer in the back is saying, whoa, I shouldn't be doing that. And somewhere intrinsically, you should be in your mind thinking, you know, you really shouldn't shave down a husky, right? There's something wrong with that, but we're going to discover why that is, what that is. And as salon owners, you guys really need to know that, because your groomer is also going to be telling you, hey, this is not the right service for this pet. We've got to tell the client, we have to communicate with the client, especially if it's something that's going to do irreparable damage to the coat. Okay, so there is a danger part of this, right? So we definitely need to have our knowledge kept up, and we need to communicate that with the clients. Okay, so the big picture, credible groomer gives a trusting client, they make better decisions, and that's happier pets. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the best kind of line of reasoning you can get. So just know that as we learn, we're benefiting the entire community of groomers and the pets. Here's my little chart that I made. So when groomers, and this is something that I kind of saved because it's my first time meeting all of you guys in this setting, is just a note on continuing education in grooming. Because a lot of groomers, and this is true, they get to a certain point, they know their breed cuts, they know what they need to know, and they don't go continuing on that education. Now, I go to a grooming convention every year. There are classes, and you see groomers go to classes, taking classes for breed cuts. But really, as the industry general idea is that, you know, groomers just, I'm kind of giving you a typical groomer, but they're like, okay, I know a lot of stuff. I know what I need to know. And they kind of stop learning, and that shouldn't be. We should constantly be doing continuing education, again, to increase that credibility, to impress our clients, right? Because now they're going to be listening to us. We're going to elevate the dog grooming industry, right? The pet grooming industry in general, right? Which is going to make happier pets. Okay. And I want to spend just a second on this, because it's not just about learning something once. Obviously, you need to keep it sharp. But let me tell you a little insight on the veterinary side, is that every veterinarian, every vet tech, every RVT, they have to go by the veterinary board and get continuing education credits, so CE credits throughout the year for them to continue to practice. This is now a board designated thing. But the thing about grooming is that we have no oversight like that, right? So we have to be very disciplined. No one's checking and seeing, okay, can you practice grooming? Wow, you haven't learned anything new about grooming for the last 5 years. So, I mean, obviously you're learning as we go, but really in terms of continuing your education, we have to follow our big brother, which I like to say is the veterinary field, not big brother like in George Orwell, 1984, but like big brother, right? Like that's gonna be taking us and showing us, you know, by the way that they're doing things and the way they're continuing their education, that we as groomers should have the discipline to follow suit. Okay. So really quickly to kind of just dive into who's in charge of coats. So I wanted to kind of dissect that. You would think it's veterinarians, but it's really not. I mean, veterinarians are going to look at coats as an indication of a potential problem with the dog. So let's take Cushing's. You'll see some indications, right, with a coat that a veterinarian will take into account. while they're doing their examination, right, of a problem with the dog. But basically, no nose to tail, right? Everything in between, all the way up to the epidermis, right? But above the epidermis, that skin and coat, who's the vocation? What's the vocation that's in charge of that part of a dog? Now, I was kind of trying to poke holes, and I was thinking maybe AKC judges, they look at coats, but they're looking at completely different things like structure and gait and coats included. But again, they are not the subject matter experts, right, on coats. So we kind of have to just step back and acknowledge that this is in our wheelhouse. Groomers are the masters of the pet coat. Okay, we do kind of cross over. So you've got your derma veterinarians, right? And groomers kind of do cross over into that epidermis layer. We kind of go more with holistic therapeutics, right? So we do have that skin layer. But in terms of coats, the coat health, how the life cycle of the coat is, that is firmly into the wheelhouse of pet groomers. So really want to make that clear that it's our responsibility to know this stuff better than anybody out there. Okay, how is that making sense? How you guys doing? Doing good? Okay. I see. Thank you, Patty. You're always, thanks for your encouragement. Okay, now, everyone who's on mute, I kind of want you to ask you guys to take it off mute. I have a question to kind of ask you guys. Do you think that all coat types are candidates for haircuts? Does every dog get a haircut?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay. Anyone else think differently?
Maybe some kind of sanitary cut.
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely like trims and neatens up. So let's kind of take a look at the second question, because I think that most people know that a Chihuahua, right, a short-haired Chihuahua shouldn't be getting a haircut, right? It's just kind of, you look at that, even though I will say I have shaved down pugs before in my life. That's because I didn't know any better. That's when I was starting. But there is definitely an answer of why we should not be cutting certain coats. Some coats should not be cut. So that's going to be really what we're going to be focusing on in this discussion, right? To give you a little more insight, open up those mental doors, right? Give you more insight, things to think about, but when you're thinking about pet coats, especially when it applies to dogs. All right, guys, let's jump in. So there are 9 basic coat types. In fact, the first time I wrote this presentation, I missed one. So there are 9 basic coat types out there with 3 variables. So let's look at the easy ones first. We've got our 3 variables that are short, medium, and long, right? And within that, there are 9 basic dog coat types. So let's go through this and kind of open up those mental doors and kind of think about which dogs you think would apply to what kind of a coat type. Okay, so let's start with wiry. Does anyone have any wiry coat types out there that you can think of? Bueller, some are in the name, in fact. Okay, so I'll hit you guys this one. So the wiry coats, that's when we have our wiry terriers. You're also going to see, so our border terriers, you're going to see a lot of pointers with a wired hair type of a coat. So it's a type of hair that's a little more coarser. It has a different type of a structure. Okay, so let's go through roughs. I won't put anyone on the spot, but roughs, think about the rough-coated collie. So we're talking about a lassie dog. That's a different type of a coat. So the rough is a different type of designation. Anyone want to try out for curly coats? Anyone have a guess?
Of course.
What do we got?
Poodle.
Poodle doodle.
Poodle doodles. Thank you. Poodles. I mean, poodles and doodles, who are the relatives of the poodle. This is also where you're going to see your Bijans. There's a lot of dogs in the curly coat type of thing. Hairless, we'll just jump in real quick when we're talking about hairless, because I mean, I'll tell you as groomers, we don't see too much, but they still need their ears clean. They still need their nails clipped. There's still things that we need to do to keep those types of dogs, the hairless dogs, maintained. Okay, corded, pretty rare, and we're going to go into that. I actually have some corded clients that I'll introduce you to. We've got our wavy coats. I am a proud owner of a curly coat, which is my poodle. And I believe I have a Havanese mix. I haven't done a DNA test on him, but that's that wavy coat, right? So that's like, and you can combine them and we'll talk about that. Got our smooth coats. Anyone want to try to guess what a smooth coat is? There's a lot of dogs in this category. I mentioned one a little earlier.
A Chihuahua.
Chihuahua, exactly. We got our, well, of course, we got our long-haired Chihuahua, but we got our short-haired Chihuahuas, and those are considered smooth-coated breeds, right? We also our Dobermans, our Greyhounds, you know, you name it. A lot of the dogs fall into this smooth category. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about double coats because that's a big one for grooming. And then we have our silky coats. So we're talking about our Malteses and those beautiful drop coats that you see in the show ring. So that is our silky coats. So 9 basic coat types with 3 variables of that coat length. Now, where do we get this information? If you just Google coat types, it's kind of funny because you'll see a lot of advertising for dog jackets first off, but you'll also see a lot of misinformation. And that's what's happening out there on the internet basically is people kind of just throw out information and they don't double check. No one's really verifying that information. So you have to go where there's proper information, real good information. And of course, the best information on dog coats and dog breeds is the AKC. So akc.org. I have been on this website for most of my career. Before they even had a website, I have my AKC book. So I had everything I need, and AKC has been with me through my entire journey. Now they have an awesome, awesome interface on their website, akc.org, that talks about every single breed out there and the characteristics of them. And so you can see, kind of put a little arrow, but this is where we're talking about those coat types. So let's zoom in a little bit, right? These are the ones that we saw, the 9 reflected, that we talked about just briefly, right, with that coat length down below. So we see this Affenpinscher that we have is a wiry coat with a short and medium characteristic, right, with the coat length. So as you can see here, is that this Affenpinscher has 2 attributes on the coat length. And I know Affenpinschers, they have basically shorter on the body, and then their furnishings and their legs are going to be a little bit longer. So that's why you have the short and medium designation all in one coat. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these other ones from the akc.org. We've got our soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. Now, what's interesting about these guys is if you look at the coat type, it's not one designated coat type. So they're wavy and silky. So I wanted to kind of show this to you guys so that you understand that just because there are these 9 coat types, they can still cross over. Okay, so also like my Havanese mix that I have, he is a cross between a double and a wavy. So you kind of build upon this because there is a lot of complexity in dog coats and a lot of differences, but AKC does a really great job of nailing it down. Wanted to take the collie, especially too, to show you another different kind of iteration. So here you've got a rough and a smooth iteration, right, for your collie, and you've got a short and long coat. How does this work? How is this working out? Is that the collie comes in 2 varieties. You've got your rough coated collie, which is your Lassie that you see, and then you've got your smooth coated collie. So as you can see in the breed traits and characteristics, they're actually showing both types under one designation. So just be aware of that. Spend some time on akc.org's website, checking out coat types, jump around, look for your favorite coat types, your favorite types of dogs, and get to know them. Learn about the breeds. It's such an amazing resource out there. And I'm so thrilled that Well-Groomed Pets aligned with AKC and is partnering with them, because really out in the world, you can't get any better. I mean, they're the bar none, end all be all place to get your dog information. So definitely want to urge you guys on your free time after your Christmas rush is over, is to definitely go out to akc.org and snoop around your favorite dogs. Let's see what you can learn. And so there is complexity to this, as I just described, but within that complexity, we're still going to be pushed in the right direction to make the right grooming choices, how it affects grooming, okay, per each coat type. So we are going to go coat type by coat type. I reordered them in order of difficulty. So we're starting with the least difficult in terms of grooming, the least impactful in terms of when you're making an appointment for these types of dogs, it's going to be the short appointments, right? And then more toward the long appointments, that things are going to take a little time, kind of in the middle of the list. I wasn't quite, I'll talk to you guys about that, but you'll see in terms of complexity, how I set it up so you can kind of see what we're starting with. All right, our hairless breeds. I want to put the well-groomed pets guys on the spot. Roger, are you there? Mike, do we got you there either? Roger, Mike. Okay, then I'm going to open it up to anybody. So do you see that dog breed down there with the X? Does anyone want to take a shot at trying to pronounce that? People are like, no, no, no. I know we have some people from South America from well-groomed pets that might actually know.
You refer to me?
Can you pronounce that? What do you think?
I will try how it sounds in Spanish, and it sounds like Soloitzcuintli.
Oh my gosh, you are so close. And it's exactly, it's Xoloitzcuintli.
Ooh.
We'll call them Xolos, but oh my gosh, I did not think anyone was going to get close. So Sebastian, you won a prize today.
I won a prize, sure. Thanks. Thank you, Gina.
Yeah, next time I see you, it'll be, I'll hook you up with a drink.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay, so let's kind of jump into our hairless breeds. Now, as they apply to grooming, right, there's not going to be too much, but we do want to wash them in gentle shampoo, right? Usually soap free. We want to make sure that we keep them from exposure to the sun, exposure to the cold. These are very sensitive skin. They also get kind of gross. They get blackheads also. So there's that kind of management. So you got to kind of treat them like you would a human skin. But just wanted to touch upon the hairless breeds that exist mostly in South America. With the Xolo, there's the Chinese crested, obviously. There is an American hairless terrier, but you see a lot of that more in the South American region. Okay, and so we're just going to take care of them very gently, very basically, okay? And when I talk about skin therapeutics and researching that, that should be an ongoing thing for groomers since we talked about the fact that derma health and coat health is in our wheelhouse, right? Of course, obviously the derma vets are there, and then our therapeutics are going to help skin. So we're definitely playing in that area and in that arena. We really need to know our therapeutics. Okay, jumping into our smooth coats, I am a past previous Doberman owner. Those are one of my loves of my life. In fact, I'm sure I will be owning another Doberman again in my life. I had to kind of wait though. Cooper was one of those dogs that just sticks with you. But you got our pitties, we got our beagles, we got our smooth coats, and you'll see with our smooth coats, we have that short, and the medium, so you'll see that the difference between a lab, and a Doberman. There is a difference between that type of a coat or a pitty, but they're still all in that smooth coat category. Okay, and here's the big kicker that a lot of people, and I didn't even know either, is that these dogs are incredibly high shedding, really, really high shedding. Does anyone out there have a smooth coated breed and can testify to that?
My Brittany sheds everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah.
Like it's literally everywhere.
Oh my gosh. And so people, they go in there, they buy pugs and they buy Dobermans and they buy pitties. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, they're shedding everywhere. But here's the deal is that I have had people come in and say, my pug is shedding everywhere. Can you please shave it? Now, that is not the correct thing to do. You never want to shave your smooth coats. That is a rule. There is such a better way to handle that, which is to de-shed the dog, right? We want to pull that undercoat out. If you cut a dog's hair that isn't supposed to be cut, right, that's shedding, it's still going to shed, just smaller. And I'll tell you this from owning a Doberman, is that it's like little eyelashes everywhere in your sheets, in your car, on the top of your car, like everywhere. That just gets everywhere and they stick into fabric. So into your couches and everywhere. I still see parts of him and he passed it, I want to say 6 years ago. So definitely something that to know when you're shedding, to get these shedding dogs. And as groomers, we have to train our owners to know that, hey, I know you've got a pity, but that doesn't mean that you don't come in regularly, because what we're going to do is we're going to use a rubber brush. We're also going to be blowing that coat, blowing a lot of that dander, that dead stuff off, rubber coating, rubber brushing them, right? Pulling that coat, distributing the oils. So yes, they might not have a coat that gets cut, but they most certainly have a coat that needs regular grooming. Okay, so that's what we need. We need to keep them clean. We need to pull out that dead coat, distribute natural oils, and overall deal with that shedding issue that people who get these dogs don't really understand until they have some of these dogs. Okay, any questions so far, guys? You doing good? Okay. Jumping into wiry coats. Okay, so obviously we have the ones that have wire in front of them, so the wire fox terrier, and we have other dogs, the Irish wolfhounds. Now, the proper way to groom most of these guys, okay, is hand stripping. Is anyone not, does anyone have any questions? Do you guys know what hand stripping is?
I've seen an example on the internet, but that's it.
Okay. Hand stripping is where you actually manually pull the coat, the top coat of wire-haired breeds, right? And that's going to release the coat to grow new coat. Now, people have watched, and in fact, I do videos on this as well, and I demonstrate this is the best thing for those wire types of coats. But most of the time, these dogs do get clipped in a lot of environments. I'm going to talk about sometimes why we break the rules. But with hand stripping, it is the right thing to do. And what we're emulating is a lot of these wire-coated breeds, especially the terriers, they would go to ground. That was their job when they were hunting. They would go root out rodents and things like that underground, go through bushes, brambles. So naturally, that coat would be pulled. It would be maintained back in the day. Now that there are pets, we have to emulate what their natural environment would be. And we actually pull that coat out. Fortunately, that coat is dead. The dogs love it. I do hand stripping. I have dogs fall asleep while I hand strip them. It is an expensive service. So that's why a lot of people don't do it. So that's why, and I'll talk about some of the exceptions. So a lot of the wire coats that do come in. So I do a wire fox terrier, for example. I take her down with a number 5, which is a very short blade on her body. And then I do the wire fox pattern. The reason why I don't hand strip her is because she wouldn't handle it. And now when I say that is that some dogs relax on hand stripping. Some dogs are really high strung. You want to get them off the table really fast. And also a lot of people won't pay for hand stripping. I'm going to also be honest that a lot of groomers don't take the time to educate themselves on hand stripping. So it is something that should be done, but we do break this rule a lot, and that we do clipper a lot of our wire coats. Okay. And one of the things I also want to mention, the slide reminded me, is that I don't condition wire coats. I leave them, I shampoo them. They're not supposed to be shampooed very often. Some wire coat aficionados say not to wash dogs at all, but our dogs live with us, right? So my dogs sleep on my bed, so I don't care. I'm going to be making sure my dogs are clean. And in the world that we live in, most people who have their pets want their pets clean. They share our lives with us. So just know that a lot of the people who are very perfectionists about the wire coat and say they should never get washed, I don't follow that at all. I believe that as pets, they should be clean and living lives right next to us. Okay. Rough coats, not too many of these guys out there. Again, I was saying the Lassie, right? Our collie. So that's the rough coated collie. And we saw that we have a smooth coated collie. So this is the rough coated collie, is very profuse with hair. They're also very active dogs. They're herding dogs. So the big problem that we get with active dogs that have this profuse hair is that they need a lot of brushing. They do need a lot of grooming. Rough-coated collie is on a scale of 1 to 10, a very high level of grooming requirement of a dog, even though it's active. So that is something that we want to communicate with folks out there, especially with frequency of visits, is that they need to maintain their dogs in between professional grooming visits. Because I will tell you this, there is no groomer who's going to say that owners brush their dogs too much in between grooming visits. There is no one, no groomer in the world that's going to say that. So we definitely want to train our clients to make the dogs have a better time while they're with us professionally getting groomed. So brushing in between, right? Having the understanding that you have an active dog and what that means. I mean, obviously, as they get older, they get a little more mellow. I've seen that too. But then there's other problems that happen when they get older, is that they don't move around as much, but they might sit, you know, and anyway, and get matted in different ways. So just know that when you have profuse coat, you have to also train your clients to brush in between grooming visits and get that right frequency of grooming visits. Lots of slicker brushing and brushing all the way down to the skin with those rough coats. All right, one of my favorites, because I am a standard poodle owner. I have my standard poodle, Rosie. So this is where the groomers, this is our styling mecca. This is where groomers can do our creative stuff. This is where we do our sculpting. And this is the key about knowing curly coats, is that curly coats like poodles and Bijans, they don't stop growing. They have to get haircuts. They absolutely must. There is, unless they're older and something's going on with their coat continues to grow. So they are our candidates for absolute haircuts all the time. They're our regular customers. And this is where groomers get to do our scissoring and our sculpting. And we have a lot of fun with poodles. As you can see, I know Gabriel Feitosa, right? He's part of the Well Groomed Pets team. He does a lot of the dyeing and all that creative, wonderful, cool stuff. And you'll see a lot of that is done with our curly coats. So know that when you're a salon owner, a lot of your dogs are going to be coming in for the haircuts. Again, you're going to be grooming all dogs, all types of dogs, but your haircut dogs are going to be definitely your curly coats. Okay. And I'm going to introduce you. That's my little poodle. She's a petite standard poodle. So she is, oh my gosh, she's turning 11. No, she's going to be turning 12 next year. So yeah, anyway, that is her. I want to introduce her to you. That's my little Havanese guy looking at you there too. But they definitely require regular brushing and combing. They need regular haircuts. And here's the thing, is if they don't have regular haircuts, this becomes a health issue. If you guys ever go and you see those dogs that are kind of encased in their own hair, and you'll see that on YouTube, some groomers are out there like getting through, and you have to kind of dig into those mats under the matting. And you're sometimes using it like a surgical closed blade to do that, especially for some of the rescue pets that are out there. That's because a curly coat wasn't brushed. And that coat, it's a single coat, right? So it just mats up and then just encases a dog. And so that's a big medical issue, a health issue. So poor maintenance of a curly coat actually will cause severe health issues. It becomes a terrible issue. So note on that. So we have to talk to our customers about that, keep them educated. I will say this about poodle owners and Bichon owners. Usually they know, they buy that dog, they know. You know, I'm working right now to get people who are doodle owners to know what poodle owners know. So I'm on a big holy mission with that currently right now, because I love doodles, but I know that people buy poodles, they know they're getting a fancy dog, they're buying a doodle. Sometimes they're thinking they're getting something a little different, but we'll reserve a special day to talk about doodles and mixes, especially the poodle mixes that are taking over the grooming world right now, changing the face of the grooming industry day by day because of their popularity. So we'll do a doodle discussion soon for sure. Okay, silky coats are Malteses, right? I grew up with Lhasa Apsos, our Shih Tzus, big in grooming, right? We are seeing a lot of silky coats. Now here's where we decide, right, to leave a coat as a drop coat, or are we going to do a puppy cut? So you'll see your Shih Tzus coming in, right? You can do a cute little tie up right on the Shih Tzu, leave that coat drop coat. That takes a lot of brushing, takes a lot of combing, a lot of conditioning, and we just trim the bottoms, we trim their little feet, right? We give them sanitaries, of course, as part of the haircut, and then we can just leave it at that. We can also have them come in, and this is, usually on a monthly basis for a lot of grooming salon owners, that it's usually a 28-day cycle. I mean, the dogs are coming back usually every 4 to 6 weeks in some cases, but really the 4 weeks. But we can also give them a puppy cut. So this is where you'll see those Shih Tzus and those adorable cuts that, is maybe an inch and a half long. We do cute teddy bear faces on them, right? And we have a choice to do either cut their tail or keep their tail natural. So definitely, as salon owners, know that a big chunk of your haircuts are also going to be your silky coats. So we got our curly haircuts, we got our silky haircuts, okay? And more haircuts, wavy coats. This is our Coton de Tuileries, right? Soft coated Wheatons actually kind of fall in. We talked about it also into double, but they're also in wavy, but there's a lot of dogs out there that are wavy. Now, I actually took pictures. These are my little puppy clients that I've been grooming for probably 7 or 8 years, and they're due to come not next week, but the week after. Just kind of curious because everyone, anyway, can you guys tell which one is the boy and which one is the girl? We got a long-haired one and a short-haired one. Patty, any guesses? Okay, well,
Long-haired boy.
Long-haired boy. Thank you so much. Exactly, that was very good. So I wanted to show you guys, this is Dino and his sister Dora. They're not quite from the same litter mate, but they're from the same breeder. But this is the thing that I wanted to really bring up about these coats is Dino and Dora are both Coton de Tuileries. Dino's coat, I can keep natural. He's got this gorgeous wavy coat. I've been grooming him for a long time, right? And I've been keeping him in this coat length that I just trim. I just kind of do this outline trim for him. On the opposite end of the scale, I've got Dora, right? So she came a few litters after him. And for some reason, her coat just has this cottony structure, just enough where I have to keep her in a puppy cut. So I leave Dino kind of natural. I leave Dora in a puppy cut, right? And they're siblings. And then, so now the owners, they wanted them to both have these long coats, but in that 4-week rotation that they come to see me, Dora was matted every time. It was too much. So we kind of started to keep taking her shorter to shorter. Right now I do her, depending on her winter cut and her summer cut, anywhere between a 0 and an A. So you're, looking a little bit over a ½ an inch. And that seems to be that perfect length. And why I really wanted to bring this up is that for every single client that we have the perfect length, we have the perfect frequency to make sure that the dogs are managed properly. And to find that out for every single dog is kind of the trick. That's why we kind of say every 28 days, but in certain cases, it may be more frequent if the client's need or their want, right, conflicts with that. So let's say the clients wanted Dora to be as long as Dino. What I would have them do is come in every 2 weeks. We might even have to do it every 1 week if they're not brushing at home, right? So that frequency to give the clients what they want, right, may have to change. But in the frequency that I see these guys every 28 days, Dino stays long, Dora stays short, and that's just the way we do it to make sure that Dora stays happy. And I just added that picture on the bottom. So you see Dora still keeping it up. She's still a little happy, but Dino is not too happy with his bath. I just had to share that. Okay, going into double coats. Okay, we're gonna spend a little time on this guy because double coats is a big bag. Okay, so obviously you're thinking the Samoyed, your Huskies, your Pomeranians. What else do we have in there? We've got our Westies, right? We also, the Havanese is a double silky coat. So double is a very big thing. We've also got our wire coats. Guess what? The hand stripping only works if you've got a double coat. Okay, so our double coats have this huge, very broad description and can fit a lot of dogs into that category, but with huge differences between those dogs. So want to really talk about this because this is important, especially for salon owners and for groomers who are, just kind of refreshing themselves on this. So we have to obviously bathe them. We condition our double coats usually, right? We're removing, so for hand stripping, we remove top coat. For carding and things like that, we're removing undercoat, de-shedding, things like that, right? Do we give these guys haircuts or no? Do we cut our double coats? Definitely want to see you guys try and answer. No, okay, I see Patty. Okay, you guys can't hear her, but she's on mute, but she's definitely shaking her head, right? So no, it's a big question. Let's see what it is, because that is true, right? When you're thinking of a Husky, no way should you be shaving down your Husky. I will tell you the coats don't react well to that either. The thing that a lot of clients don't understand is that the coat insulates from the cold, right? Obviously, but it also insulates the dogs from the heat. And you have to be smart. I live in Southern California. I see a lot of Huskies everywhere, and I'm always hoping and praying that these Huskies are in places that have a lot of air conditioning, because when it's 110 degrees outside, that's asking a lot of your Siberian breed, right? You know, your Arctic breed. So you just have to be smart about that. But cutting that coat is not going to make them cooler in essence. And that's a big, big problem that a lot of clients just don't quite understand. They're just thinking, well, less coat. If I'm cold, I put on a coat. So if I take a coat off, right, when I'm hot, you know, that's going to be the same. It doesn't work like that with our pet coats. And in fact, we can really, really damage a coat. I'm going to kind of go into another slide and probably go back to Husky to discuss this a little more. Guess who else is a double-coated breed? Our Westies. That's Bella and Sophia. Those are two of my little client babies, little happy ones, but they are double-coated. Same designation. In fact, exactly as our Husky, right? So medium double coat. Go figure. Now, you don't need to know too much about dogs to understand what a very difference that is in a coat of a Westie, right, which is one of the most popular dogs out there, and a Husky, which is one of the most popular dogs out there. So most people know there's a huge, huge difference between these guys. And then you look at your Westies, right? They're supposed to be hand stripped. We'll talk about hand stripping again on another day, but we really do cut a lot of our Westies. So we are cutting down our double coated breeds, and sometimes really short. I like to do my Westies, if I'm not hand stripping them, I like to do them with like a 2 or a 4, which is going to leave a little more of a look like a hand strip look. So it's not going all the way down to the skin, but a lot of groomers like to take their Westies down with a 5, with a 7. That's really, really short. So these coats are able to handle these types of shave downs all their lives. We know it's not quite the right thing we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be hand stripping them, even though they're not wired coats. Westies are kind of special, right? But we know we're not supposed to cut down the Huskies. So I kind of want to take a second here to kind of explain and whet your appetite, hopefully, for a discussion that we'll be having about the life cycle of coat types. Okay, so when you're dealing with dogs, we have to know that they are GMO, right? So we have created dogs from the original dog. So started off as wolves, right? Then we have our original dog. And since then, we have been modifying them based on selective breeding, taking advantage of mutations that have occurred in the history of these dogs. And we've been making them into what we want. How do we do this? Is that dogs have 78 chromosomes. If you guys remember, humans have 46. So with these 78 chromosomes, that's why you have a little Chihuahua is related to a Newfoundland, right? So lots of variations that are occurring while we've been developing dogs, right, through our history together. But that original dog, right, has a little bit of a different coat type, and it's called triad. We can talk about that in more detail in another discussion. But when you're looking at the dogs that are most closest to that original dog, think Husky. That's you kind of have to look at it this way, is that if they're closest to that original dog, those are the dogs you want to keep more natural. The dogs that are more GMO, right? The ones that we have messed with their coats, single coated breeds like our poodles and our Bijans. Those are the dogs that can take more of us messing with them, right? Cutting them, giving them haircuts. In fact, with poodles, Bijans, we have to, right? Because we have created this coat for our purposes and what we wanted to do with them. So just as a rule of thumb, when you're thinking about natural dogs and that original dog and how it evolved from the wolf, okay, you can kind of, as a general rule, understand that those dogs like the Huskies, the Spitz breeds, those are ancient breeds with an ancient coat. They really should be kept natural and do their business the way that nature intended it to be done. Okay, so does that make sense to you guys? Okay, great. And I do not want to forget our Pomeranians. So I know even if some groomers are out there, I'm so sorry if you're a boo cut master, which is shaving down Pomeranians, getting the really cute face. There was a dog named Boo. He has passed, unfortunately, a few years ago, but he was designated as the cutest dog in the world. So this guy was everywhere. And he was a shaved Pomeranian, really cute little circle face, right? And he did this whole big trend for this boo cut on your Pomeranians. A lot of groomers do this for their Pomeranians. It is an adorable look. Have I done it? Sure. Have I shaved a lot of Pomeranians in my life? As I, with shame, kind of avert my eyes, I have done it. Have I done it in the past calendar year? I have. And I'll kind of give you guys like why. It's something that I talk to clients too a lot about. about the Pomeranian coat. It is a Spitz coat. It's very close to that original dog. So when you cut a Pomeranian's coat, it doesn't, you're basically breaking the life cycle. It doesn't renew. It doesn't regenerate. It gets patchy. It gets grizzly. It actually can mat up more as it's growing in because it's not growing in right anymore. It doesn't have that silk of that top coat, right? And that softness of that undercoat. It's also, this is a very important thing to discuss with the Pomeranians. They also have a different structure, right? So they have an open structure. We're going to be talking about that with the life cycle of coats, because it's also which direction that coat is laying. So there's a little erector muscle in a hair bulb, right? That is actually telling a coat, is it standing up or is it laying flat? So think lab, right? But think Pomeranian, it's a poof, right? So there's an erector muscle telling that hair to stick up. So that has a lot to do with it, especially with those Spitz breeds and how they react to a shaving. So Westie shaves, we do it. We're not really typically supposed to, but I'll tell you, Westies are one of the most popular dogs in the world. We're shaving them down. We're clipping them down. We're doing this all the time. And those coats are recovering. And I've groomed Westies all the way to the end of the Rainbow Bridge, basically. So I work with their Westie rescue, get a lot of older Westies. So I see what happens to their coat. They definitely handle it a lot better than the Pomeranians, who can basically, as they age, become completely bald, patchy, bald, grizzly. I mean, it's just not right. So we definitely have to communicate that to the clients. And I will say that with clients, I've seen only one case, but be aware of this, shop owners. One case where a client actually wanted to sue the groomer, it wasn't us, wanted to sue the groomer because the groomer didn't explain what was going to happen to his Pomeranian's coat. So now this dog is 10 years old. It's naked, it has to wear sweaters everywhere. Okay, it is completely just, it's a ruined coat. And so this guy approached me to write a letter for the court. I didn't do it because I obviously didn't know what the groomer really told the guy back in the day, but just wanted to give you that to let you know that sometimes the clients do get very upset if they don't know what they're getting into. Really, we have to communicate with them because we know better, right? And we're gonna keep doing it for certain reasons. And I'm gonna talk about that at the end, why we kind of break some of our rules. All right, corded coats. This is one of my clients and he's coming in this Saturday. So he comes to see me every 2 months. This is Ziggy. He is a pulley. I used to pronounce it pulley, but it's apparently pronounced pulley. I had some breeders call me and tell me that. So anyway, I groom Zig. It is a lot of work, but luckily, when you're doing these presentations, sometimes you have to go grab stock photos and things. Fortunately, I take pictures of myself working with Ziggy. So this is a fully corded dog, right? And I've been working with him probably for 9 years. I have to wash him every single cord. It's like basically washing a bunch of sponges. And I mean, to equate a full corded dog, just kind of show you, I mean, if you equate it to how many human dreadlocked heads you would have to groom to equate it, I don't know, 10 humans, 15 humans. So it's a lot of work. Ziggy takes me 3.5, 4 hours to do. And he still leaves just slightly ever damp. And I have to separate his coat. So all those cords have to be separated at the root. And then I spin them, right? Because I want to encourage them to cord. I kind of want to ask you guys, do you guys do any corded breeds? Have you seen corded dogs out there?
No.
No,
You
yeah,
like it.
yeah, you like it or you don't. Yeah, they're really cool. And I will tell you, the breed is amazing. The pulley breed is amazing. They're very, very sweet. They're a Hungarian breed. So anyway, just wanted to give you kind of insight into what this Saturday is going to look like. So we just have to make sure to keep these guys really clean, separate the coats, but it is a specialty service. It is very expensive. I will say, in terms of accepting a corded dog into your grooming salon, just know that there's going to be a specialty service. Not every groomer is going to be able to handle that. And it is going to be something that you're going to be spending a lot of hours on. Okay. So
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
How you drying that dog?
How do what?
How long are you drying with that dog?
Oh my gosh, the drying process, I have a stand dryer on him for about 3 hours, because as I'm separating, I'm still blowing on him. So yeah, I mean, and I do use my hose dryer. I just have to go in the right direction to make sure that I don't tangle anything up. But yeah, the drying itself takes the longest period. So it's about 3 hours.
Are they matted also, or just only dread?
They can mat if you don't separate at that root. So with Ziggy, I scoop him in the right in the middle with a 10. So I scoop him all around inside his coat, so I don't have to manage those dreads, and so he stays cleaner. But yeah, like inside his legs, if the matting, if the cords are not separating, they become chunky mats, just like you would see on a poodle. And I'm actually really glad you had a good question too, because look at our poodles. We can cord poodles, by the way. So you can do dreadlocks on a poodle. Right. So so that's where we're crossing over that line.
But we can shave poodle, but this type of dog we can't shave. If
you can, like they're very close.
Can?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting ready. I'm going to be shaving Ziggy at some point. He is now, I want to say 12 years old, and he's getting it's getting a little rough for him to be corded like that.
But it's long coat, or you do medium or short?
He is all the way to the floor. Ziggy, yeah, like if you look at this picture, and I can send you more pictures, his coat, I have to cut the coat off of the floor for dragging, but his coat grows all the way down to the floor and has to be cut.
And I have last question.
Sure.
What the price for bathing, grooming this kind of dog, and how you do the sanitary for this dog?
Well,
everywhere the corded coat, like a dreaded.
Yeah. So I do the sanitary, but with Ziggy, that's a great question. I do the sanitary all the way to his armpits. If I showed you underneath Ziggy, he is completely
clean.
Not normal. You know, but normally, yeah, you would just do your 10, do your sanitary around their privates. And that's the client has asked me.
Like
to do
usually that. Dogs, right? Sanitary. Like
yeah,
usually
you do the
dogs.
Sanitary, for sure. Not only that, I mean, everything collects on these coats. Everything, including fecal matter, including everything. I'm pulling out trees out of this dog. I collect it in a wastebasket. Everything that the dog touches sticks to this dog.
So you're very fast for 3.5 hours.
Oh my gosh, it takes a long time. The washing, about an hour. I mean, and the charge for this type of dog is definitely in the $250 range, just to let you know.
Like a poodle.
Yeah. It's a no joke. It's a no joke.
But I think it's more expensive than the poodle. You don't spend a lot of time for poodle than this kind of dog.
You know what it is, and that's a really great question. Is that, and it's Ayesa, right? Okay.
Asiela.
Asiela. Okay, sorry, my Russian's a little rusty. Okay. So yeah, the poodles are much more skilled. I mean, in a way, because you're doing a lot more scissoring with that. So that's when you're doing your pricing for poodles, because you're doing hand scissoring. There is nothing. This is more manual labor. So manual labor in grooming is always, like, to me, the bathing part of manual labor is always charged as an hourly less than when you're doing skilled labor on a poodle that very few people know how to do, you know, hand scissoring, sculpting. Now, a lot of people don't do corded dogs, but yeah, I charge it at a little less of an hourly rate because it doesn't take scissoring, you know?
Okay, understand.
Does that make sense? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Asiela. Okay, awesome. Okay. So when we bend, break the rules, because we are doing it all the time. I mean, the most common one is obviously clipping instead of hand stripping. Why do we do this? Again, skilled, money, some of the times the dogs just won't allow us to do that. So know that we do break the rules a lot with our wire coats and the dogs that need hand stripping. Okay. Other times we may bend or break the rules is veterinarian directed shaves. If a veterinarian tells us to do something, we just do it, right? They're saying this dog has a medication. We need to shave the back so that the medication goes straight into the skin. We shave, we do whatever the veterinarians say. So that's a hard, fast rule. Age of pet definitely comes into it as the pet ages. I do go shorter. I don't want to be dematting our elderly geriatric pets. And especially when we're coming into talking about Pomeranians, as they age, especially if they already have a damaged coat, that's when I'll definitely make the decision with a client to say, okay, let's go ahead and keep your pet comfortable right? Because they're now aged. So we're not now trying to make this coat luxurious, and we're not worrying about doing the proper service for the health of the coat. We're now dealing with the health of the animal and the comfort of the animal. Okay, so just to definitely be aware of that. Disposition of pet to some dogs are just plain crazy, and they should not be matted. They should not be dematted. They need to be kept out of some place that they're going to have a lot of anxiety. There are times as a grooming manager, as a grooming salon manager and owner, that you just know that it's better off if these dogs see you less than more, okay? Because it's a lot of anxiety for them. And in that kind of a case, that's where I will often bend and break the rules, shave something down shorter than what normally you would do, but for the disposition of the pet. They're not happy, they're having problems, so let's do what's right for them. Okay, another reason when we bend or break the rules is the coat is already damaged, okay? And that's happened to me in the last calendar year, where I was asked to do a Pomeranian that has been shaved all his life and just started now biting groomers. He was kicked out of every grooming salon. So they found me. I went to visit the dog because he was very, very old. And by the way, he was just a little nippy, not a big deal at all. But he had that grizzly coat that was matting because he had been shaved all his life. So we made the decision to shave the pet. He just passed last month, rest his little soul. But just to let you know that if the coat's already damaged, you may make the decision to just say, okay, you know, we're just going to keep going with it. And then here is the big one. And because this is the client always right in grooming. Right now, the client is it's their dog. They have the final say at the end of the day, what happens to their pet. We can just give them advice, right? As pet professionals, as subject matter experts of pet coats. Okay. But if you've explained everything really carefully, you are credible, right? You've gained your knowledge. You are able to use the right terminology. You're explaining about the life cycle of the coat. You're explaining what's going to happen to your pet as it ages. You're going to explain about irreparable damage, and all of this you've done very, very carefully. And the client still insists. Now that's something else. And they're saying, no, I want my palm to look like Boo. Please shave down my Pomeranian. And I will say this, as you advance, as groomers, you know, at least for me, I can say is that when I first started grooming, I was doing a lot of these, like the client was driving my choices of what I was doing. And so we had a kind of an uninformed decision-making process, because even though the client might have Googled everything and they have all the breed books and everything like that, they're not seeing the coats like a groomer would. And it took me a few years to get that credibility and that knowledge base where I can actually now in my grooming career tell clients like, listen, there are certain levels of things that I can't do for you. So I would never take a Pomeranian puppy and shave it. I just wouldn't do that. I'm not the groomer that would do that. But there are groomers that would, and it's not, you're not ending the dog's life, you know, and if it's making the client happy, we have to consider that. So just know there are rules. We break and bend them, but here are definitely some of the reasons, and most of the time because the client is insisting. Do you guys see that out there a little bit in grooming? Yeah.
So we just say, sorry, we don't do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got to that point, you know, when I was a younger groomer, I was just happy for the business. Absolutely. You know, I really didn't know, you know, I was shaving down cats, giving them little booties and little cat, you know, I've shaved down pugs. I've shaved down labs. I will say shaving down labs, I've seen what happens to the skin. It's not good. As labs age, that really does affect skin and causes skin problems. So now I know better. And now I can kind of stand. And now it's my obligation, because I know better, to kind of say, put my foot down and be very, you know, kind but strong. Oh my God. So
can you do for us like a note, what kind of breed we don't need to shave? I know we don't need to shave Husky, Pomeranian.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to do a speed round on that. Really, okay. But the answer is don't shave the dogs that are of the Spitz variety. Okay, that's the easy answer. So when you've got your ancient coats, right, and you see that, and you just picture a wolf in your head, picture the nearest relative of that in the dog family, and those are the dogs that react the worst. Yes, I know the cute little Pomeranian doesn't look like it's kind of a wolf, but it's got that Spitz coat. It's in the Spitz family. And those are the coats that really, really do poorly. Okay. I mean, now you can also cut them down midway, and there's all sorts of different ways, but I will say that I definitely encourage with everything that I got is to keep your Spitz breeds natural. I'm not talking about trimming the paws and sanitary trims and, you know, trimming everything that you need to. I do trims on my palms, but shaving that coat, if it's a natural type of a coat, you don't do it. And we will get more into that when we talk about life cycle of coats, which we don't have time today, but that will definitely be a subject that we'll go into. And so you can really understand what's happening. Why is it breaking? What does Gina mean by breaking the life cycle of the coat? Okay, so we'll talk about that. Okay, everyone mute off. We are doing a coat type speed round. So we are gonna go through coat by coat and you guys tell me whether or not we get a haircut. All right, are we ready? Okay, we're gonna go one type at a time. Okay. We're just gonna get a yes or no, haircut or no haircut. Hairless breeds.
No.
No, there's no hair to cut. There's no haircuts. Okay. Smooth coats.
Never shave a smooth coat.
Yeah, these guys, we just brush them. We take out their dead undercoat. We keep their coat conditioned. We keep them beautiful. That way we keep them clean. We don't mess with their coat, okay? Don't no shaving, no haircuts. Okay, wiry coats.
It depends.
That is a really good answer. So we do, it's complicated. We should be hand stripping these guys, but basically we do a lot of clipping because of a lot of factors, okay, which we went over today. But hand strip is what we should be doing. And then trimming around their furnishings, paws, legs, things like that. Rough coats, yes or no?
Ooh,
I missed the rough coat.
I don't know.
I would say no.
And that is a good way. I mean, you could do little trim ups and things like that. And you have the otter hound, but really they just take a lot of maintenance and a little bit of light trimming. You'll see a lot of the hair in front of their paws, you know, that kind of a Hawks and Pasterns type of a trim, and a light trim is usually what you'll see for the rough coats. Think of Lassie. If I'm dating myself, if no one remembers Lassie, but she was a gorgeous rough coated collie, so. Okay, curly coats, haircuts, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we must. In fact, if we don't, they go out of control. It's an absolute yes on the curly coats. Okay, silky coats. Haircut, no haircut.
Depends.
Haircut, silky.
Huh? Haircut, silky.
Haircut.
Yeah, I mean, really, they do get into that because their hair will keep growing. It's that drop coat. Even if we're just trimming the bottom and their feet, we're still, yeah, we're definitely, and then we can definitely give them the puppy cuts. That's when we're kind of making those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wavy coats. Haircut, no haircut.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, trims and cuts, lots of brushing. I mean, this is our, you know, Coton de Tuileries. So you saw with the difference between Dino and Dora about that. So we can have different lengths of wavy coats, but yeah, we're normally trimming them. Double coats.
No.
No.
Not typically. So thick double coats, that's like that husky, right, is no. Thinner coats, they can vary on how they react, but really no. The rule is really no. Okay, corded coats.
No.
I mean, we do cut, but it's don't ask.
We can shave for sanitary.
Yeah, shave sanitary, you're gonna cut the long parts of the, like, so for my pulley that I work on, I have to cut the bottom of his cords or they'll be dragging on the floor, you know? So we definitely have to do that. We have to maintain that. So to me, I see those coats very similar to the curly coats, except that they're dreaded instead of kept in a puppy cut, okay? And they, just the characteristics of the coat is very, very similar to a poodle. All right, do you guys feel good about that? Do you guys feel that you learned a little bit more about coats?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That is great. All right, you guys did great at the speed round. So really in conclusion, it is important to understand pet coats. And, you know, we just touched upon our basic coats. We're gonna go deeper, guys. There's so much more information to go through. with this, but really our final goal, with Well-Groomed Pets is elevating the industry, providing amazing services for our animals, and really just creating a better life for all pet kind. That's what we're here for. That is our mission. And again, we got the honor to be working with these amazing furry animals. They bring us such joy. So that's returning the favor as professionals, getting to really get our knowledge base up so that we give clients a better way of doing things, making sure that we're giving them the appropriate knowledge to make the right choices. So we are going to be doing more training. I touched a little bit upon it, but one of my favorite things is talking about the life cycle of a dog's coat. I know another thing that we're going to be doing is Cindy here. Did Cindy jump on? I guess not, but I'm going to be meeting Cindy. She is a new shop owner in Laguna Niguel, opening up in March. So definitely Q1 of 2023. I am going to be coming out there in person with a bunch of Westies from the Westie Rescue of Orange County. And we are going to be doing a Westie workshop. So for the groomers, so we're going to go on site there. I'm really excited to be doing that for Cindy, and also any of you guys, new salon owners. I am happily, I'm in Southern California, but I'm happy to go out there and do workshops with you guys. If you guys are connected with rescues, I can kind of borrow some of the dogs from local areas, and then we can do workshops in your areas too. I'm definitely happy to do that for you guys. So
thank you, Gina.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Well-Groomed Pets, guys. Well-Groomed Pets, thank you for inviting me to talk to you guys, to meet all of you wonderful people. Guys, if you need to reach out to me directly, just hit up the guys at Well-Groomed Pets. They have my email. I didn't want to blast it to the world here, but I am available to you guys for your grooming questions, any kind of a wellness advocate service that I can do for you. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out on subjects that really you're coming across that maybe stumped you, something that you would find interesting. I'm always open to delving into different subjects, especially according to things that you really need to know. So hope that worked out. Guys, thank you so much.
So much. That was great.